Well, today's a big day on the podcast. We've got Pope Leo XIV saying we need a solemn, beautiful liturgy. That was in his sermon yesterday. We have Bishop Coakley from Oklahoma, who's been elected as the new president of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. As you'll see as we move through today's podcast, Coakley was supportive of Archbishop Vigano back when Vigano was doing his expose, and when Vigano was calling for the resignation of Pope Francis. So the bishops narrowly electing Coakley is sending a message. And I'm going to break down today what I think that message is and the new relationship that is emerging between Pope Leo and the boys at the Vatican and the USCCB, which I think is divided and trying to find their way forward. And then we also have the story, Father James Martin, televised professional videographers, two dudes. One of them got confirmed in Manhattan. Big story. In case you're wondering, these dudes are homosexuals. And there's a whole video of that. They're so-called married. And, you know, Father James Martin's he's prancing around, prancing these people out, flaunting it. Pro-videography. I'll show you the clip. They just want the whole world to see it's raining men. So, yeah, and I'm seeing Protestants. Here's some more clips. I'm seeing Protestants all over. Here you go. ABC News anchor Gio Benitez made his confirmation at a Manhattan Catholic church with his, quote, husband, homosexual partner, as his sponsor. Sources say they have been, quote, legally married since 2016. Gio Benitez thanked Pope Francis's legacy and pro-LGBT priest Father James Martin, who helped him come back into the Catholic Church. So, you know, I'll show the video. We'll talk about that. Everybody's talking about ecumenicalism and, you know, co-redemptrix. You know, maybe we should be concerned with co-bedroom dicks, or that came out wrong. More Protestants are scandalized by this kind of stuff than they are by Marian titles and whatever we're trying to do with ecumenism. I want to start off, before we get into the Pope and liturgy. Now, maybe we should start with the Pope and liturgy. Yeah, let's start top down. Pope Leo. We'll move down into the USCCB, and then we'll talk about some local stuff in Manhattan. Father James Martin and the homosexuality situation going on there in Gotham City. Pope Leo, he had a sermon. It was the feast of the dedication, consecration of St. John Lateran, the Cathedral Church in Rome. As you know, the Vatican St. Peter's Basilica is not the cathedral people think it is. It's actually St. John Lateran, which was gifted by Constantine to Pope St. Who was it? Sylvester. The statement is rather short by Pope Leo, and here it is, and it's one paragraph. I'll just read it to you. I would put it on the screen, but the text is really, for some reason, this Vatican document online has really light-colored text. Can you guys see that? It's even hard for me to read. Yeah, you guys can read that pretty good. All right, I'll read it to you. There we go. Finally, Pope Leo says, finally, I would like to mention an essential aspect of the cathedral's mission, liturgy. The liturgy is the summit towards which the activity of the church is directed, the source from which all its powers flow. That's Sacrosanctum Concilium 10. In it, says the Pope, we find the same themes we have already mentioned. We are built up as God's temple, as his dwelling place in the Spirit, and we receive strength to preach the word to the world, in the world, pardon me. Therefore, care for the liturgy, especially here at the See of Peter, must be such that it can serve an example for the whole people of God. It must comply with the established norms Be attentive to the different sensibilities of those participating and keep with the principle of wise enculturation. I'll pause here. From day one, Pope Leo's first Mass, I think it's become very clear. I talked about this 2 days ago with Matt Gaspers when he's here in the studio. It's becoming very clear that the program of Pope Leo is for himself as Pope to celebrate the Novus Ordo Mass with dignity, with Latin, with more beautiful vestments, and through his example to make the Novus Ordo more reverent, more beautiful. I think that's his plan. That's his way forward. And in, pardon me, still coming over the pneumonia. Pray for me. And in this address, in this sermon, he's saying that the See of Rome, the Apostolic See, is going to be the example. And the Cathedral Church of Rome, St. John Lateran, is going to set the paradigm for beautiful, reverent liturgies. And he's using his sermon before this is talking about the imagery of the temple. And that's good because, I saw Jonathan Pageau and Bishop Barron, they had an interview a few years ago, and they were talking about liturgy. And Jonathan, mentioned how in the Eastern Orthodoxy, or in the Eastern liturgies, it's eschatological, it's Christ-centered, it is mystical, it is truly the touching of heaven and earth. And if you've ever been to an Eastern liturgy, you sense that. And he posed the question to Bishop Barron, it seems like in Roman Catholicism, that's somewhat been lost. And Bishop Barron gave a great answer. He's like, it has been. I think most bishops, priests, even lay people, if you said, I'm paraphrasing Bishop Barron here, but he said, if you said to them, when we say holy, 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 and we're joined with the angels and the archangels, etc., in that sacred moment, lift up your hearts, we lift them up to the Lord, they kind of see that as like poetic. They don't see it as metaphysical, ontological, mystical, real. Whereas in the Eastern churches, they still do. Now, in the Roman Rite, historically, we did. But in the modern age, and with a liturgy that's become more pedestrian, we've lost our grasp on that. And in the sermon where he's talking about the church as the temple, Pope Leo is sort of reminding us that we are the temple of God. We have a priesthood. We have the sacrifice of the Mass. He doesn't say all this, but he's evoking it. And then he brings it to the liturgy. So I do think this is an important moment. I think he is, making a good point here. And then he goes on to say, therefore, care for the liturgy, especially here at the See of Peter, must be such that it can serve an example for the whole people of God. It must comply with the established norms. And a lot of people are saying, that just means he's going to enforce Novus Ordo. It could mean that. But he also did allow the Summorum Pontificum Mass to go through this year, where there was 2,000 to 5,000 people. It's very dignified, celebrated all over the internet. To be attentive to the different sensibilities of those participating and keep with the principle of wise enculturation. At the same time, it must remain faithful to the solemn sobriety typical of the Roman tradition, which can do so much good for the souls of those who actively participate in it. Every care should be taken to ensure that the simple beauty of the rites expresses the value of worship for the harmonious growth of the whole body of the Lord. That's important. He's talking about the Roman See, the Roman cathedral, as an example, in the Roman tradition. I don't know. When I read this, I got the feeling, I got the vibe that Pope Leo is going to revise the Novus Ordo. I kind of feel like he's preparing people that he's going to revise the Missal. He's not going to go TLM. But I feel like he's plowing the field to say, you know what, we need to restore, as he said on his, second or third day of his pontificate, we need to restore the mystical. We need to learn something from the Eastern rites. There needs to be solemnity. There also needs to be simplicity as part of the Roman Rite. Then he quotes St. Augustine. As St. Augustine said, beauty is nothing but love, and love is life. The truth is realized in an eminent way within the liturgy. And I hope that those who approach the altar of Rome's cathedral go away filled with the grace that the Lord wishes to flood the world, end quote. Ezekiel. That's good. It's a win. I know my trad base out there are like, yeah, but he didn't restore the TLM. And I know. And I don't think Pope Leo is going to be the Pope who restores the TLM to all the altars of Rome. But he's aware of the problem. Pope Francis, I don't think, would ever have said anything like that. So I'm going to take it as a W. I'm going to take it as a W and see where this goes. Now, before we head over to Bishop Coakley, here's a, oh my goodness. Here's an OFM, a friar. He put on Twitter, a homophobic bishop is now president of the USCCB. Dear Lord, what is wrong with the American bishops? So they're not happy. They're not happy. We're going to go into why that is. Before I do, though, I want to remind you, have you got your traditional Latin Mass calendar? The best Catholic calendar in the whole world for 2026 is the NSTI, traditional Catholic calendar, with incorporating both the 1962 Missal and the 1945 Missal. So you get all the pre-55 features, the octaves, the differences in Lent, etc. It's all here, all in one calendar. We have two versions. We have the art, the same calendar, but the art in this one is the Virgin Mary. The art in this one follows the seasons. It's beautiful. It's high quality. We went all out this year. If you haven't ordered yours before they sell out, go to store.taylormarshall.com. If you buy both in the package, there's a package in there, you save money. All right, if you want to get both. I'd recommend getting two packages, two for you, one for the office, one for the kitchen, and then give two away. Great Christmas presents. Why do you need a traditional Catholic calendar? If you're going to live the Catholic faith, you need to have a daily reminder of, oh, it's this Saint's Day. That's my nephew's Saint's Day. I'll give him a call. Wish him happy Saint's Day. Oh, Lent starts in 4 weeks. Oh, Advent is on this day. Oh, Easter is early this year. Easter is late this year. When is Pentecost? Etc. Does the Assumption fall on a Sunday this year? You need all of this every single day on your kitchen wall, in your office, in your bathroom. So go to store.taylormarshall.com. Get your traddiest of trad calendars. You can buy the NSTI calendar, store@taylormarshall.com. Also, before we jump into the rest of today's news, I want to remind you that we are going on a pilgrimage together, and I want to personally invite you to come along with us. February 9th through February 19th, we're going to Rome. We're going to St. John Lateran, which we've talked about today. We're going to St. Peter's. We're going to the Vatican Museum, St. Mary Major, St. Paul outside the walls. We're going to see relics. We're going to have traditional Latin Mass every day. We're going to pray the Rosary every day. We're also going to go all over Italy. We have beautiful accommodations, by the way. We'll be in Rome. We're going to go to Monte Cassino. We're going to go see the tomb of Padre Pio. We're going to go see the apparition site of St. Michael the Archangel. We're going to go to Lanciano, the Eucharistic miracle. We're going to go to Loreto and see the Holy House of Loreto. We're going to go to Assisi for Ash Wednesday. We're kicking off Lent in Assisi with St. Francis and with St. Clare. So if you'd like to reserve your spot and join Joy and me and a bunch of great Catholics, drink amazing wine, visit beautiful churches, celebrate the traditional Mass together, pray the Rosary together. And we also have an extension where we'll be going to Florence and Venice. Sign up. All right. How do you sign up? You go to taylormarshall.com/Rome, ROME, taylormarshall.com/Rome, February 9th through 19th. Let me tell you, I've been to Rome many, many times, 10 times, I guess. And February, I've been in February. February is a great time. It's cool. There's not many lines. It's not crowded. You see more. You enjoy more. You get to wear a sweater. And it's a beautiful time of year in Rome. So I chose February because I think it's going to be it's just perfect. I love Rome in February. February 9th through 19th. Sign up. Join us. It's going to be great. Tons of people have already signed up. I'm very happy about it. All right. Bishop Coakley. A lot of people are kind of getting upset, freaking out a little bit. And I want to remind you that Bishop Coakley goes way back to John Sr. Who's John Sr.? He was in Kansas, I believe. And he was this intellectual leader calling people back to a classical education, to a ancient understanding of Christianity, of Catholicism. He famously said, throw away your TVs. Many, many young people converted to Catholicism under the influence of John Sr., including some who are bishops. Bishop Conley, who was instrumental in my conversion from Anglicanism into the Catholic Church. I believe he had his conversion also under Professor John Sr. So he's in that legacy. John Sr., by the way, I believe had his funerals celebrated by the SSPX. So he's kind of in this primordial trad tradition here in the United States of America. So Coakley comes from that. And you can see by the response so far, I'm going to read a little bit from one of the articles that came out from the National Catholic Reporter, Distorter, their response to Bishop Coakley's election as the president of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. Coakley, age 70, the current conference secretary and chairman of its committee on the priorities and plans, will succeed Archbishop Timothy Broglio as of the U.S. Archdiocese for the Military Services. Now, here's the interesting thing. How close was the vote? After a second round of voting failed to produce a clear winner, Coakley won in the third round with 128 votes, while Flores garnered 109 votes. All right, that's a 19-vote difference. This tells me that the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops is pretty much broken down the middle. 53%, 55% going with Coakley, more conservative, the rest going with Flores, who is from Brownsville, very vocal about immigration because he's right there he's in a border town in Texas. The United States Conference of Catholic Bishops is, I believe, signaling a new direction, looking for new leadership, and is making a statement to Pope Leo and those that work in the Vatican that we're forging ahead in a way that is not in the mold of Cardinal Cupich, Cardinal McElroy. And also, we're not going to put a number one immigration speaker, Flores, or Seitz, as our president. That's not our priority. Our priority has more to do with Catholic tradition, doctrine, orthodoxy, orthopraxy. I think it's a win. Now, some people have said, oh, he's still pro-immigration. Look, that's a whole other topic. And I actually did a deep dive about a month ago on the history of Catholic bishops, particularly archbishops and cardinals, from the 1800s all the way up to the 1950s. And it is just a constant drumbeat in American Catholicism of archbishops and bishops and cardinals championing the Irish immigrants, the Italian immigrants, the Eastern European immigrants, and so on and so forth. It's so cooked into American Catholicism that I don't think we should be surprised that bishops in 2025 speak this way, act this way. It's very much part of the American Catholic tradition. That's another show. It's another podcast. I've been thinking it through myself. But here's kind of the The interesting part by the NCR, let me jump down here. In 2018, Coakley was among several American bishops who expressed support for Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano after the former Vatican ambassador to the United States accused Pope Francis of covering up sexual abuse and called on the Pope to resign. Bishop Coakley was a pro-Vigano guy in 2018. Do y'all remember 2018, by the way? 2018 was wild. 2018 was when the Dr. Taylor Marshall podcast just started doubling and tripling because Catholics were concerned about ex-Cardinal McCarrick. They were concerned about the billions of dollars that were being paid out because of predatory priests who were hurting children, hurting young adults. And they wanted answers. They wanted to know, how did Cardinal McCarrick, how is he not only the Archbishop of Washington, D.C., but how is he instrumental in writing the 2002 protocols for handling sexual abuse when he was a sexual abuser? No one wanted to turn that stone over. No one wanted to kick over the log and see all the spiders and grubs, insects and centipedes that had been growing under there. And I'm just a dad with a webcam, so I was just talking about it. Like, I'm disgusted. I can't believe this. I can't believe Pope Francis allowed McCarrick, knowing all this, to go to China. Archbishop Vigano was the nuncio to the U.S. He knew a lot of things. He was exposing a lot of things. Initially, a lot of the bishops, including Bishop Barron, I remember a Bishop Barron quote, again, I'm paraphrasing. He was like, we should ask more about Vigano, because if anyone knows most about it, it would be him, because he was nuncio during this time. A lot of bishops were deferring to Vigano. And to me, looking back over the 7 years, can't believe it's been 7 years, there was a crack in the USCCB. Bishop Strickland was in a way leading the charge there. He put a bullseye on himself and they got rid of him. But a crack happened and it started to divide. And it got wider and wider. And I think as Pope Francis became more active, more anti-American, and more set in his ways, he supported the McElroys and the James Martins, which we're going to talk about today, the Cardinal Supiches, that camp, which very much, they represent the nephews, the legacy of Bernardine and McCarrick. And I think what happened is your more conservative voices in the USCCB, they got pushed away, they got pushed down. Now that we have a new pope and Francis is gone, I think that group of more conservative bishops apparently is a lot bigger than I expected. If you elect a guy who was pro-Vigano in 2018, you're making a statement. And in a way, you're indicating this whole agenda of continue the legacy of Francis, continue synodality, continue Francis legacy. In a way, when you elect a guy who was pro-Vigano, you're saying, we don't want to continue the Pope Francis legacy. You know, we are subtly signaling that we are done with that. I hope that's what it is. I'll continue reading. This is the National Catholic Reporter. 2018, Coakley was among several American bishops who expressed support for Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano after the former Vatican ambassador to the United States accused Pope Francis of covering up sexual abuse and called on the Pope to resign. Vigano has since been excommunicated. Coakley has not retracted his statement, where he expressed deep respect for Vigano's personal integrity. In that statement, Coakley also called for an investigation and a purification of the church. Amen, brother. Amen, Your Excellency. We want a purification of the church. We are sick and tired of Rupnik. We are sick and tired of McCarrick's. We are sick and tired of hearing our bishops say, we need you to give us money so we can pay for these billion-dollar settlements. We're sick of it. We're tired. You squeeze this out, and we are ashamed amongst our non-Catholic friends who laugh and mock the Catholic Church as a den of what they call pedophile priests. We are so tired of that. And we know that archbishops and cardinals and bishops covered for abusers. It's a fact. And it looks like to me, maybe I'm wrong, but it looks like Pope Francis was covering for Rupnik, who was having illicit, forced, coerced orgies with nuns using vessels from Mass in their orgy activity. Disgusting. Francis defended him, hid him, reestablished him. We want purification. So when the USCCB elects a guy who says he wants purification of the church, I'm taking that as a W. Take the dub. Massimo Fagioli, a church historian and ecclesiology professor at Trinity College Dublin, whoop-de-doo, told National Catholic Reporter that the bishop's vote in Baltimore was the single most important election to an ecclesiastical position of leadership since the conclave of Pope Leo XIV. Quote, the election of Coakley as the USCCB president seems to confirm that a certain rift or distance between Rome and the USCCB does exist. And it was not because of Pope Francis, says Fagiolo, who has studied and written about the American hierarchy. What? Fagioli. He says, it remains to be seen what kind of dynamic there will be in the next 3 years between the USCCB, Leo XIV, and the American political situation. All of this is not just American Catholic business, but has practical and symbolic consequences far beyond the jurisdiction of the USCCB. Here is Bishop Flores of Brownsville. He's now the vice president. He's 64. And there's one more thing I wanted to read before we close out this window. And that is, so the nuncio, the papal nuncio from Rome, no doubt was watching this, saw the direction of the USCCB, and he wanted to pump the brakes. Cardinal Christophe Pierre, the Vatican ambassador to the United States, then spoke to the bishops about the legacy of the Second Vatican Council and its continued relevance in the life of the church. Quote, I'm convinced that Vatican II remains the key to understanding what kind of church we are going to be today and the reference point for discerning where we are heading. And he said, Leo clearly wants us to continue in that direction. And here's a little bit of that speech. This is the gay thing. Hold on. We're going to get to that. The gay confirmation with Martin. Here's Cardinal Christophe Pierre. I also want to say this. Nuncios are the ambassadors from the Holy See to nations. So this is the nuncio from the Vatican to America and Washington, D.C. Nuncios are not typically made cardinals. They're archbishops. They're not cardinals. Archbishop Pierre is a cardinal. Why did Pope Francis do that? The reason I've heard is that in order to insult Archbishop Vigano, he made a successor of Vigano, the nuncio to the United States of America, into a cardinal to give him more authority. So anyway, I don't know if that's the case or not, but here is the nuncio, Cardinal Pierre. And this is his response saying, hey, we got to keep Vatican II. We got to do Vatican II even harder.
Vatican II. In the words of John Paul II and Benedict XVI, it was the great grace bestowed on the Church in the 20th century. The Council offered us not a new faith, but a new way of describing and living the one faith in the modern world. As such, it is a reliable guide of the world and of the Church. For this reason, the Council's documents were not fully understood in their time.
So the documents of Vatican II were not understood in the 1960s.
They were not a description of where the Church stood, but a map drawn for the territory into which she was being sent. Today, that territory is our daily experience. We now inhabit the world that the Council foresaw, a world marked...
Vatican II is the map for our current world, and we now live in that current world. Well, Your Eminence, this current world is horrible. I don't know if you looked around at mass attendance, priestly vocations, abortion rates, marriage rates, birth rates, decline. Imagine showing the empty cathedrals of Europe to people in 1962. Imagine showing them that. Imagine showing them that their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren do not go to Mass. That they're talking about drugs and surgeries and their right to have abortions. Mass apostasy. I don't want to hear, respectfully, I don't want to hear that this was the map to the future and we're now living in that future. That's not a good map. That's not a great destination to end up at on the map. Y'all agree with me? Hope so. We got a sponsor I got to honor before. I'm going to go to your questions and answers, and I'm also going to show the two homosexuals get the confirmation by James Martin of the homosexuals. All right. Before we do that, today's show is sponsored by Fabric. When Joy and I were first married, we had our first baby. The priest said, when we're getting the baby baptized, you know, you guys got a will, you got insurance. And that kind of woke me up as a young man. I got married when I was 23 years old. And I was like, wow, I got to be responsible, like insurance and life insurance. And what happens if something happens to us? What happens to this baby? And so Fabric by Gerber Life is a term life insurance that you can get done today if you're a busy parent. All right. It's made for busy parents. You can do it right online, on your schedule, right from your couch, and you could be covered in 10 minutes. If you have kids, and especially if you're young and healthy, let me run this video. This is the time to lock in low rates. They have flexible, high-quality policies that fit your family and your budget, like $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. That's a no-brainer. Fabric has partnered with Gerber Life, trusted by millions of families like yours for over 50 years. They have a 30-day money-back guarantee, 1,900 five-star reviews on Trustpilot, a rating of excellent. And again, 10 minutes under $1 a day, $1 million of coverage. If you're a parent, you need to do this. So join thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Apply today by going to meetfabric.com/Taylor. Meetfabric.com/Taylor. Again, that's meet spelled MEET, fabric.com/Taylor. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. You can also click the link in the show notes. That's meet, MEET, fabric.com/Taylor. All right, James Martin. Is there anything else I wanted to show on these? Oh, here's a good quote. This is Archbishop Coakley. He says, quote, support for homosexuality severed the connection between sexual activity and the inherent difference between men and women's bodies, turning sexual orientation into an individual's choice based solely on desire. Nailed it. That's accurate. That is legit. Meanwhile, we got these two guys, as I mentioned in the intro. In case you were wondering, they are homosexuals. And Gio Benitez, who's an ABC News anchor, he was just confirmed in Manhattan with his partner, who is his legally married in New York husband, as his sponsor. Now, I don't know if y'all know this, but in the old days, if someone was your baptismal godparent or your sponsor in confirmation, it created an impediment. It created a spiritual affinity so that you could not marry that person. All right. So let's say you're a guy and you choose your girlfriend to be your confirmation sponsor. And then a year later, you want to get married. You can't get married. There's an impediment because she's your confirmation sponsor. So that's some old theology. I guess this is out the window. I mean, who knows what's going on? What's the theology here? I don't know. And then here is the ceremony. And I just find it so interesting that they have like the whole thing filmed. Like, did James Martin and the camera crew come in and say, let's do this? Here we go. I believe that's James Martin on the far right. That's him.
Is the body of Christ. How beautiful the heart that bled, that took all my sin and bore it instead. How beautiful.
And I'm all about for conversions and welcoming everyone to the Catholic Church. Let me be real clear on that. But if people are living in open sexual sin, like you're legally married, two dudes, bro with bro, and he's your sponsor, you're kind of flaunting the rules of Catholic morality. Are you not?
How beautiful.
Turn the volume down. I know y'all are loving the music. Hugging, clapping. James Martin. Receiving Holy Communion. So that's it. So how is James Martin have faculties? And also, I mean, I've been saying some nice stuff about Cardinal Dolan lately, but Cardinal Dolan, this is in your diocese, is it not? Are you down with this? Are you okay with this? Cardinal Dolan, your eminence. How is it that Bishop Strickland has been removed from his diocese, stripped from his ordinary functions as a bishop, who's a good man? I know Bishop Strickland. He is a country Christian. He's just like, I just want people to love Jesus. That's how he talks. I would say, whenever I talk to Bishop Strickland, I'm not making this up. I'm not trying to puff him up. I would say he's praising or talking about Jesus Christ every 2 to 3 sentences. You can tell this guy, Bishop Strickland, loves Jesus. He loves being Catholic. He loves the Eucharist. He's just loving Jesus all the time. That's Bishop Strickland. I know him personally. All right. How is he kicked out? But James Martin is promoting pride parades, promoting children exposure to this kind of stuff, blessing people who are in the eyes of American law, married, promoting all that, blessing that, doing this, communion, the homosexual partner, the hand on the shoulder, sponsor and all that. He's legit. But Father Frank Pavone is bad, and he's kicked out. Bishop Strickland's bad, he's kicked out. How come Rupnik got more support, backup from Pope Francis? We lay people are out here, we see that it's hypocrisy. We see there's a double standard, and we're sick of it. You wanted to demoralize us on that issue, on this kind of thing. I guess I'm not demoralized. I am frustrated by the double standard. But we're going to win. You know why we're going to win? Because we have babies and we have vocations, and y'all don't. We have a birth rate over 3. You don't. Yeah, but Taylor, like, these dudes can, like, buy a baby, and it's beautiful. They buy a baby. That's a family. Yeah, y'all can buy babies. You can have your ceremonies. But Taylor Marshall and Joy Marshall have 8 kids. And they all practice the Catholic faith. And they all go to Mass on Sunday. And we're going to have babies, and we're going to have vocations to the Catholic priesthood and to the religious life. So just give us time, okay? You want to do that? It's sterile. It's not going to grow. It's a cul-de-sac. As Dante depicted, a barren desert, no life, no grass, no growth, no fruit, dry sand. Dante's Inferno. If you ever read Dante's Inferno, everybody should read Dante's Inferno. We're going to win. We're going to win big. Where's the mass attendance? Traditional families, traditional parishes. Where are the marriages? Traditional families, traditional parishes. Where are the vocations? Same place. You want to look where the Holy Spirit is moving and where there's growth and where there's vitality, where people aren't contracepting but are having large families, who are donating money and building huge churches, filling the pews. People have to get to Mass 30 minutes early to get a seat. That's us. So y'all can go and be gay in Manhattan, but the future is ours. The future of the Catholic Church is ours. I'll have all gray hair by then. But we're just going to wait y'all out. Y'all call us breeders. We're just going to breed it out. That's the future. And the window of the Vatican II, and I'll say the word boomer, I don't mean it in a denigrating way right now. The Vatican II boomer bishops and cardinals, they are moving further and further into retirement. And you're going to have a whole new crop, a generation of people, priests, bishops, cardinals. They don't remember the Second Vatican Council. They're not going to get up like Cardinal Pierre and say, it was the map to our future situation. They don't know that. They're going to say, we want to be Catholic. We want large families. We want vocations. We want reverent liturgy, holy sacrifice, the Mass, beautiful Mariology and devotion, literature, prayer, practice. We want to be Catholic. And you know what? There's millions of Protestants right now looking at us Catholics. I think I used to be a Protestant. I think deep down they're like, man, I wish the Catholic Church were true. I wish I could receive the body of Jesus Christ. That would be cool. And then they look at stuff like this.
Is the body of Christ.
And they're like, I'll pass. I saw that at my grandma's Methodist church. Hard pass. It's okay. We're going to win. we're going to come back. I'm going to go to your comments and your questions. Before I do, I'm going to honor today's second sponsor, and then we're going to get after it with super chats, etc. You've heard me talk about it before. Energy. I do a lot of stuff. I got 8 kids, calendars. I'm writing books, doing this podcast. Got myself sick doing it all. And one of the things that I need to focus on more, and I have been focusing on, it's just the lungs got me in the cold air, I guess, is energy. And if you feel exhausted, if you struggle to get through the day, the culprit could be right under your nose. It's a sluggish, overworked liver. And because of processed foods, environmental toxins, GMOs, alcohol, microplastics, fluoride, so many things we don't even know about yet, your liver, which is the filter of your body, the regulatory filter and life force of your metabolism, it gets bogged down. It gets hurt. And 100 million Americans suffer from an overworked liver. That's according to the American Liver Foundation, 1 in 3 of every Americans. So if you're ready to reclaim your vitality, I highly recommend giving your liver the support it needs with the liver health formula from our sponsor, Pure Health Research. It's a cutting-edge supplement, 11 powerful, clinically proven natural ingredients to detoxify and rejuvenate your liver at the cellular level so you experience more energy and an optimized metabolism. So I use it. I find better digestion, better skin. It makes a big difference. We need to have a strong liver. So you can use the QR code, or you can just go to purehealthresearch.com, purehealthresearch.com. Order the liver health formula, and when you use the discount code Taylor, Taylor, you'll get 35% off your purchase at checkout. So go to purehealthresearch.com, use discount code Taylor, Taylor at checkout, and you'll get 35% off. Take this first step towards better health for your liver and more vibrant living today. purehealthresearch.com. You can also click the link in the show notes. All right. Let's go to super chats and chat. We got a super chat from Adam. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate that. I guess from Canada, because you got the Canadian currency. Antonio Flores says, keep calm, no surrender, never. Christ is king. Christ is king. We're going to win. All right. We're going to win in the eschaton at the end times through martyrdom. All right. The Antichrist is going to want to kill us. There is no rapture. You're going to be here. Those of us during the apocalypse, if you want to learn more, get my book, Antichrist and Apocalypse, at Amazon or at Audible. Those of us during the apocalypse, during the tribulation, will experience martyrdom and will be glorious saints. Glorious saints. In the meantime, until that happens, we are here to promote thy kingdom come, thy will be done. That's chiefly within the church, as Pope Leo said, chiefly in the liturgy. It also has a political and social dimension. That's why I wrote the book, Christian Patriot. All right. We need to purify the church, as Archbishop Coakley said. That's why I wrote the book, Infiltration. People always say, you wrote Infiltration. What's the sequel to Infiltration? The sequel is Antichrist and Apocalypse. People don't like to hear that, but that's the secret. That's the sequel. Let's see what else y'all have to say. Base Crusader 69, Dr. Marshall, what do you think of the Luxembourgish, pardon me, Reformed Episcopalian theologian Wilmius von Duper? Never heard of him. I used to be an Anglican priest. Never heard of that dude. John Wick says, love your calendars. Are they shipping now? They are shipping now. People on X are saying, I already received my calendars. They're amazing. They are high stock. All right. I had to pay extra. I was like, the first time they came out, they were kind of thin. And I said, well, they do the job. But I kind of feel like if this is going to be the best Catholic calendar in the whole world, we need to up the stock. All right. They got to be thicker. I want the metal braid that doesn't come undone. This is the heavy duty metal braid. And then I want every single image to be glorious. All right. No cheap art, only beauty. This is Joseph and Mary fleeing into Egypt. The resurrection of Christ. Pentecost. See how it all goes with all the months. Christ and his mother. The coronation of the Virgin. That's the receiving of Christ by his mother. Blessed Mother in October. All Saints. Look at all these saints in November. Christmas, Nativity. And then in the back, there's a catechism. 10 Commandments, Precepts of the Church, 4 Last Things, 7 Sacraments, 7 Deadly Sins, how to baptize someone in an emergency. Someone needs to be baptized in your kitchen. You just pull the calendar off the wall and it tells you how to baptize the person in case you forgot. All the traditional and current canonical teaching on fasting and abstinence, what the age is, and all the explanations right here. And then my favorite part, the Catholic Farmer's Almanac with all the traditions of agrarian, medieval Europe, Catholic devotions as it relates to the seasons and the saints. All right. It's the best. It's the best. You should order the combo pack. Get the Mary art and get the liturgical season art. It's the best. All right. I've been using Catholic calendar for 15 years. I never found what I wanted. It's 1962, 1945, all put together. Order it at, do I have the link is in the show notes, but you want to go to, here it is, store.taylormarshall.com. Store.taylormarshall.com. Here's the, oh, wow. Look at that. Bam. Put that there. Put that over here. Let's go. John Wick, I'm glad you like the calendar. Everybody loves the calendars. Defender of Man says, we will win. We will build. We will conquer. Traditional Latin Mass. Deus vult all day long. Deus vult. All right. We're having 8 kids. We're raising 8 kids Catholic. We're rolling up in the van. We're going to Mass, going to Corpus Christi, going to midnight Mass, going to the Easter Vigil. This is what we do. Deus vult. God wills it. Creosote super chat. I'm a newly converting OCIA catechumen candidate. My local parish is nice. My local parish is nice. The men's group seems healthy. The priests seem like good men, but I'm in Central Texas and I can't find a traditional Latin Mass anywhere. Any advice? I'm in Texas and I know there are some traditional Latin Masses. I don't know exactly where you live. So I would encourage you to, I know San Antonio has options. I know Waco has options. I know SSPX is also available in Central Texas. So again, I don't know exactly where you are. And by the way, a lot of people think I'm a TLM absolutist. Like you can only go to the TLM or nothing else. I think that's because I promote the TLM, the traditional Latin Mass, so much that I'll sometimes see people occasionally in the comments or on X, and they'll say something like, Taylor Marshall believes the Novus Ordo is invalid, or, excuse me, sorry, I'm recovering from pneumonia, or Taylor Marshall thinks you should not go, or you should stay at home, etc. Let me just be really clear. The Novus Ordo Mass, instituted by valid Pope Paul VI, is a valid Mass. All right? Don't ever let anyone tell you that I said it's not. All right? So I'm not on here telling you that you need to stay home or that's the only way to go. And I wish that people who say that would stop lying about me, because you're confusing a lot of people. Never said that. All right. Creosote says, thanks, Dr. Marshall. Thanks, everyone. Glad we could help. Nero Octurianus. Taylor, how can we get wider society to react against widespread vandalism to churches throughout France and Canada? Convert them to Catholicism? No one gives a flip about a church building down if they don't believe what's in that church. What makes the church important? The Eucharist and the Mass, the tabernacle, the Blessed Sacrament. Otherwise, it's just a building. If it burns down, they're like, oh, that stinks. That was a beautiful building. It burned down. But they have no religious conviction about it. What's worse than a church building down is a Catholic who denies the faith and goes to hell and burns forever. Doesn't burn for 8 hours. It burns forever. We need to live lives to be like saints. We need to invite people to Mass. We need to evangelize. We need to bring people into the church. And let me tell you, right now, people are desperate. They're financially desperate. They're morally desperate. They've tried every drug, or almost every drug. They're experimenting with sexuality. Some of these people have 12 partners, 50 partners, 100 partners. They've streamed everything on Netflix, everything on Prime. They go to parties, they go to raves, they traveled. It's not enough. There's nothing left. And they're destroying their bodies and they're destroying their souls in the pursuit of happiness. And they don't have it because they don't have that joy. Only Jesus can give you the joy. Only the Eucharist can give you joy. When I was sick with this pneumonia, couldn't go to Mass. Prayed, watched the stream TLM, had spiritual communion. I couldn't receive the Eucharist. Painful. We need the Mass. We need the Eucharist. People who are struggling, depressed, having horrible thoughts, destroying their body, destroying their soul, destroying their relationships, the only answer is Jesus Christ. The only answer is the Eucharist and the forgiveness we get through confession, through penance. Otherwise, why would Jesus suffer and be scourged and crowned with thorns and die on a cross if there was any other way? That's what's so offensive about some ecumenical dialogue. Oh, you follow Muhammad, you follow Vishnu, you follow Buddha, you follow Sikhism and all that. If it was all just have good thoughts and be transcendental and pray to a quasi-monotheistic notion of God, why did Jesus die on the cross? Seems kind of messed up that if you could just sort of have good thoughts and vibes and get to heaven, that you don't need Jesus Christ dying on the cross and defeating death and rising on the third day. Pretty offensive to say that. It's kind of like Jesus Christ can give up everything, every drop of blood for you to get to heaven, or follow Sikhism. It's cool. It's offensive. We need to start saying that's offensive. That's offensive to God, to Jesus Christ. Bellatorus Christus, do you think Pope Leo will issue a Novus Ordo rite within the next 10 years? I think he will. That's mark today's show, mark today's date, November 12th, 2025. I don't think it'll be a Novus Ordo. I know you're kind of tongue-in-cheek there, Bellator. I think he will reissue the Novus Ordo Mass. He could remove the two, what are they called, penitential Eucharistic prayers, get rid of that. Maybe get rid of Eucharistic prayer 2. Maybe get rid of Eucharistic prayer 3 and 4. Beef up the prayers, what we call prayers at the foot of the altar, the penitential rite. Maybe restore the ancient Roman offertory and issue rubrics and norms to sort of prune and peel off all the nonsense. I really do see him. I see the way I've listened to him. I've seen him in person. I've watched his masses. I really think he wants to keep the Novus Ordo and make it the best possible Novus Ordo ever. I think he'll get resistance on that. And I think maybe the way forward is when he gets resistance on it, he's just like, okay, allow the TLM. But I do think there will be another reform of the Novus Ordo Missal under Leo. And from today's quote, I think it's going to be along those lines. Simplicity, sobriety, reverence, beauty. We got to get back to that. Traditional is Novus are two different religions. No, they're not. They're not two different religions. Base Crusader, Dr. Marshall, can I make an out-of-context compilation of you saying funny stuff? Yes, you may. People do that already. I get a good chuckle out of it. Anto, this is such a cope. Pope Leo is not going to do anything. Well, how do you know? Maybe he's not. Let a brother hope. Katie, we need a Christian reawakening in North Dallas and Collin County. Muslims have taken over the area. We need adoration available more often. 100%, Katie. 10 years ago, it was not like this in North Texas. You go to Costco right now, you feel like little India. Everybody's Indian. No offense to Indians, but it shows that immigration and a change of the demographic is happening in North Texas rapidly. I don't think a lot of people understood it, but it's rapidly happening. There are Hindus building communities with giant monkey gods in them in Texas. And by the way, I got nothing against Indians. I know Catholic Indians. I have friends that are Catholic Indians. I'm concerned about the Hindu worshiping blue-skinned superheroes from the Marvel movies, what it looks like to me. Multi-armed creatures. Looks like a comic book. That's all demonic. I don't want that. I don't want monkey gods, Shiva gods, Krishna. I don't want any of that. I want Jesus Christ. Yesterday, that Buddhist guy came on the show. You wanted support from me, Christian patriot. I'm like, I don't want you running the Senate. I don't want you running the Congress. I don't want you running the HOA. I don't want you running for dog catcher. Buddhists do not follow the 10 Commandments. No. Muslims want Sharia law. They explicitly want Sharia law. Why are we letting them set up neighborhoods? Katie, you're absolutely right. And we're being betrayed. We're being betrayed by the conservatives. We're being betrayed. I'm going to say it. Y'all want me to say it? We're being betrayed by Trump. Boy, I just kicked the hornet's nest in the chat. Good thing we're at 1 hour. I can leave now. I kicked the hornet's nest and I can just run away. Katie says, amen. God bless Texas. You know what's really sad? In North Texas, there's like 100 mosques and there's 4 TLMs. It's like, Deus Volt. We got to run this crusade. 4 TLMs, 100 mosques. Joey, are you in the chat? How many mosques are in North Texas right now? Let me know. Joey keeps tabs on all this stuff. I'll do a couple more before we sign out here. Gail, deities are evil. Yeah. These Hindu gods and goddesses are demons. All right. They're not avatars of the God of Abraham. Like, wake up, people. Wake up. Freddie quote says, Trump is making a lot of people angry. Yeah, I mean, I got 8 kids. What am I supposed to tell him? Hey, here's a trillion dollar debt. You get a 50-year mortgage. We're going to bring in H-1B visa workers to take your jobs. We're going to bring 600,000 Chinese into the state college. Hope your life turns out great. That's what we're honestly telling young people. Here, take a multi-trillion-dollar deficit. We'll take away your jobs. We'll make it hard for you to get housing and have a nice life. And people are like, why is Gen Z so angry? Why is Gen Z losing hope? That's why. And I know a lot of people say, well, I worked hard. And yeah, I did too. Joy and I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. We didn't have anything. You have to work your way up. I get that. But when you look at the price of a house relative to annual income, adjusted for inflation, from 1930 to 2025, it's just like that. It is harder. It is objectively harder because inflation, because globalization, because immigration. One more comment and question. Here we go. Dan K. 122 mosques in Texas as of 2025. Crazy. We should have 122 traditional Latin masses. If they had let us grow, we would have 122 traditional Latin masses. But they keep the lid on us. Last question, Antonio Silveria. If Pope Leo just issues a document that copies an executive order to change the Mass, it would set a terrible precedent. The Holy Spirit must guide a change. I think Pope Leo understands this. Antonio, what do you think they did in 1970, dude? They issued a document. That's how things work, man. You think they consulted and were like, hey, we're going to take things slow and bring the Novus Ordo in transitionally and make people ready for it? No, they dropped a document. They dropped it in everybody's lap. They showed up to Mass and like, what's going on here? It's a Peter, Paul, and Mary concert. It was not sensitive. Millions of people stopped going to Mass. All right, that's a show. My chest. I'm going to go hit my inhaler. I'm better. I have my energy back, but it's still, the lungs are not, my lungs are at 94%. They're not quite there yet, but I'm able to do an hour show, so that's encouraging. All right, get your calendar, store.taylormarshall.com. Come on the pilgrimage with us. Pray your rosary every single day or not on the team, okay? Pray your rosary every day. I don't want to hear any excuses, all right? If you're in bed sick, like I was, you pray the rosary. You have more time to pray rosary. If you're busy, you don't have time not to pray the rosary. All right, it's 20 minutes a day. It is the best way to start a life of prayer. 20 minutes a day. Nothing. Pray the rosary every day or not on the team. Our Lady wants you to pray the rosary. Pope Leo wants you to pray the rosary. Popes want you to pray the rosary. Padre Pio wants you to pray the rosary. Just pray the rosary every day. By the way, at store.taylormarshall.com, we have Pray the Rosary Every Day coffee mugs. If you need a reminder in the morning, go to store.taylormarshall.com. Get yourself a Pray the Rosary Every Day coffee mug. Want some, get some. Check out the traditional Latin Mass if you can. And remember, our Lord Jesus Christ says, you're the light of the world and the salt of the earth. So go out there and be salty. God bless. Godspeed. And we'll see you in the next show.